Okay, greetings, greetings, greetings. I'm back. This is going to be an epic conversation that I want to share some communication techniques that I use for communicating with spirit. Let me make sure I don't. Okay. All right. So, yeah, so we're going to be talking about some divination and communicating with spirit guides. And I invited Blue on. Is it Blue or is it Indigo now?
It's definitely indigo now.
Indigo. So we got
Yeah.
Indigo on with us. And she actually went through the Dark Goddess University mentorship that I did last year. So this is your first time getting a chance to hear from someone who went through that program with me. But it's just really cool because she has her own um, stories and how spirit has been guiding her as well. So we're gonna just chat and vibe and talk about this. And I'm gonna give you some hidden tips that I discovered that really do help for me to get messages with clarity. With very little effort actually. And so yeah, I don't believe I believe in using the least amount of effort to get the maximum effect. Yeah, so that's what we'll be talking about. All right. So I'm gonna get started. Let me make sure I got all my notes up.
Thank you for that lovely
Yes.
introduction.
Yeah. It's okay. So I posted the poll and I asked everybody like what would you like to talk about next? And this was the highest vote on the poll. So this is why we will be discussing divination, communication with your spirit guides, and I expected this to be the top one simply because the climate that we're in now is extremely unstable, to say the least, on every level. And it's really focusing, helping us to focus on the inner work. Because when the outer is just out of control, and you know it's like nothing that you can do about it immediately to change it. But what you can control is the way you're processing what's showing up in the world and in your reality. And so for me, connecting with spirit was the beginning of me noticing that I create reality by the thoughts, beliefs, and habits that I repeat. And I was living unconsciously. I was making decisions without really fully feeling them out. I wasn't listening to my inner self. For a really long time, I had a hard time being able to differentiate between my inner self and my ego. And the ego is real smooth. So the ego tell you to do something, you're like, yeah, that's what I've been doing. That's how I've always responded to this. The ego doesn't change. The ego is unchanging. The only part of us that is changing is the spiritual aspect of who we are. But it's ultimately who we are from the very beginning. We just forget when we are born on planet Earth. This is Earth school. So it wouldn't be fair if we all remember everything. And I saw a contract before we came here. So it's really interesting that more people are being drawn to spirit because of the climate that we're in now, which is one of the gifts of going through this pandemic situation. And so I believe that we are finding a lot of other coping mechanisms and habits that we had that once soothed us. They don't work anymore. And that can be frustrated and uncomfortable. As you are going through the awakening, you want to get in touch with the parts of yourself that hide from the world because of trauma and shame and guilt. And what happens is the trust inside of you towards yourself begins to collapse in where if you have a difficulty ruminating in your mind about things that you feel you did wrong and should have done different, well, what happens that creates a frequency around you of I don't trust myself. I'm constantly thinking about this because I don't trust myself for this to be okay. And it happens to everybody. I believe it happens to everybody. I believe the power is in the way we respond to it when it happens. You're not gonna, I don't perceive us being able to live in this world where the spiritual veil has been pulled down and so many illusions are being destroyed. You can't navigate that without connecting to the innermost self. So that's the beauty of what's happening now. And I'm noticing I got a few friends who um, are practicing different forms of religion, and they're asking questions about lucid dreams and, how do you meditate and what are chakras? And so it's just really beautiful to see the age of Aquarius awaken us as a collective. But it's definitely uncomfortable. So that's what I'm going to be beginning with. Um, and then, if you have some questions, if you end up catching the replay, that's cool too, because we're going to make sure that we have the replay and I will be responding to any questions. Just drop in the comments if you tend to catch the show after. But before I get started, I do want to ask, Indigo, did you, prior to your awakening, like on this level, that you have experiences where you knew, like, I'm not from this world, like, I'm different?
Honestly, I always just felt different, a bit outcasted, but that's pretty much about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like that for me too. I actually felt like I got dropped and on a planet. Like I really knew that I should have had a spaceship. Like from very small. Like it was just this feeling like I'm not from here. Oh my gosh, who are these people? These people are what is wrong with these people? And just I remember going to kindergarten and just seeing how mean kids were to each other. And like that was some of my first experiences with feeling the spiritual resistance against the frequency of love. Because how are 5-year-olds already developing the habit of doing things to hurt each other? And it's something that satisfies them about it. Like, where does that come from? So for me, I was super aware as a kid. And but typically the kids who were empathic and aware and had this spiritual sense inside of them, whether they could explain it or not, we were energetically more sensitive to bullying and things like that. So it's really interesting how when you look back, you realize some of the negative things that you experienced was just to give you a measure of how not of this world that you are and how you are a powerful being capable of reading energy. That's a super power to be able to pick up on energy, especially right now. So maybe when we were younger, it didn't feel like a superpower to be able to pick up on energy. But now, before we even get started, I just want to encourage you and tell you if you're starting to pick up on vibes like really, really easy, then that's beautiful because you are the one that has been chosen to awaken. And healing is feeling. So, the paradigm shift is happening is from us feeling, and we feel things so more intensely now than we did before. And I do believe, the amount of people that are dying and losing their lives, like it's kind of helping us to put our life in perspective of life is so short. Like, I don't want to waste this. Like, I want to make sure that the next steps that I take is moving me in a direction that spirit is driving me to go because it's where I belong. And so because I grew up with a lot of seeing a lot of that, I also grew up in the height of the crack epidemic. Like I was in the middle of fights and shootouts. Like that was just a day in the neighborhood. And and so I developed these psychic shields that I would use to protect myself. And thinking back, everything that I've been learning now, I actually already knew was already a part of me. I just wasn't able to really make the connections. So, what we're going to be talking about, I want to share with you one of the first things that you can start doing to help you to be able to focus on the eagle eye perspective of what's happening. because our five senses has been spell cast into not being able to see past our wounds. But it is the third eye and your and the feeling in the heart that helps you to read energy. So the 3D matrix is not, it's not supportive of people who want to co-create a reality that's opposite of what the mass is doing, but it only takes a few of us. And so by you pulling away from the hive mind and allowing other people's, I wrote this earlier and it really touched me, and I'm gonna read this to you all. It says we have to be careful to avoid basing our standards on others' expectations. And I feel like the suffering that we sometimes feel and the isolation and the pain from not having these healthy relationships established already, it's a lot of that is okay, but what standards am I holding myself to that are unrealistic? And especially in society as a woman, it's just unrealistic what wives have been expected to do. Like that's some superhero stuff. To be able to manage a home, manage a job, manage a family, be the nurse, be the doctor, be the healer, be the cook, do the inventory, always know how much food is here and not here, being able to meal prep ahead of time, take care of yourself too. Like it's a lot. And that's the average wife. Like that's what's expected of her. But the spirit that created these expectations of the 3D matrix purpose is to drain life force energy. Now we are starting to feel the impact of whatever thoughts we've been thinking in repetition, and that's what's showing up. And when that starts to happen, that's the time where you are being initiated into embodying a future version of yourself and communing with spirit before you make any decisions. That's a place of surrender. That's a place of, you know what, I think I'm going to have to trust the process. I can't micromanage this anymore. And a lot of us are exhausted because we try to micromanage our thoughts. And that's going, we have what, 80,000 thoughts a day, most neuroscientists in the reports that I have read. So that's a lot of thoughts to try to, I can't even imagine doing that in my phone every day, going through 80,000 emails every day. Like, please, somebody hit me in the head and knock me out, please. So, the only way that you are able to do that is by creating stronger intuition. And so I'm going to share some of the practices that I use to help my intuition continue to grow. The next thing that I wanted to mention about intuition is if you had supernatural experiences as a kid as well, this was a sign that you were put here to be a spiritual current of energy, to be the 5D tower in which these spiritual unfoldings, these, that's why we go through so many different things, because we know that we have been equipped to overcome them. No matter what you've been through in the past, it don't matter what it is. If you can think back and remember supernatural experiences, then you can trust that they are still with you now. And the more aware you are of the divine protection that walks with you, the more present they can be in assisting you in making decisions. So it's a two-way relationship. And there is a level of surrender that you also have to have um, when you're working with these different spiritual currents. So a lot of us had experiences. I know some of us can relate to having car accidents and knowing it should have been way worse than what it was. And it wasn't as bad as it should have been. I had a car accident and I could feel hands holding me in the seat so I didn't go through the windshield. Those experiences, if they come back to you and that moment is triggered, like milk that moment, because that's a moment that reflects your mind is beginning to align the crown chakra. This is the energy vortex that opens to receive spiritual energy. it's coming back to you and you're not forcing it. It's just flowing in. And so you may have some memories and you like, you know what? I've been worrying about a lot of stuff lately and stressing over things, but I do remember times where I didn't think that I would make it or I didn't know, what would happen next. And I somehow was protected or I somehow always came out of it. I rose above it. I somehow always survived. It's so imperative for us to go back and think those thoughts in repetition throughout the day, thinking positive thoughts about experiences of you being supported. Because trust me, I know everybody working on their trauma right now, some more than others, and there are many different depths to doing this work. But we're noticing we can't really be codependent and depend on people anymore, right? People with the pandemic happening, it seems like people are more fickle. You can't, and it was bothering me. And I was like, why do I feel like I can't depend on people? I feel like people can depend on me, but I can't depend on them. And my spirit guides was very clear about this. They were just like, because you wanted to be able to be sovereign. And if everybody around you is dependable and always supporting you, you don't have the opportunity to notice that sovereignty is being offered to you, where what you're doing no longer is going to be based on other people's expectations. And so we project those expectations onto one another. And that's literally the definition of codependency, where we're not okay unless certain people are okay. And we're being unplugged from that. So this is how spirit is taking us through another spiritual initiation as a collective. And this is why learning divination and actually using it, like you have to practice this to reprogram your mind to know that you not only create the negative things in your life, but you create the positive as well. Co-creating with spirit in this space helped to relieve anxiety and so much fear. I haven't had a panic attack and I don't know when, but I used to have them all the time. And I know now that I have complex PTSD from my childhood, but the panic attacks, I couldn't really connect to why what was triggering that. And there was just this deep fear inside of me of not meeting expectations. And as a young mom, I felt like I didn't have any more strikes to make. I felt pressured to be perfect. And it was just a lot of stress. And spirit ultimately was what got me to this place now, where I walked away from jobs. I walked away from going to college to do this. That's how much this meant to me. So yeah, so spirit may be directing you to reflect back so that you are prepared for what's in front of you, because opportunities open when you do this work consistently. Indigo, you got anything you want to add?
I was just processing everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
It's really really good stuff, because I think sometimes we try to intellectualize the journey, but it's a
Mhm.
feeling process.
Mm.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, and I would
Process.
love to
Hmm.
uh I would love to comment on that too, because
Hmm.
the shift between the mind to the body or to the heart
Hmm.
is like everything.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I realized that when I was at the beginning of this, I was very like, I have my things going on, of course, but I didn't realize how boggled I was up here. So it's nice to slow down and just kind of get this information and let just what feels right.
Hmm. Absolutely. That's the whole purpose, and connecting with your into it, to see into it, into any situation, to see the spiritual purpose of it. And so I'm going to go to the next thing because I kind of went off somewhere else there. um, Now, I also had experiences throughout life of having dreams about stuff happening before it happened. And I didn't consider it divination because I didn't think that I was in control of the dream in the first place. But that's also a form of divination that a lot of people even myself didn't really appreciate. And a lot of times, sometimes you can have a dream that somebody you in a relationship with cheating on you. It's a good example. And intuition will tell you as soon as you wake up, you can just feel it, like, don't ignore that. But the head, just to help us identify, because spirit doesn't speak through the head. Okay. The mind collects the data, and based on what we think about the most influences the synapses that fire and wire thinking habits. It turn into thinking habits, right? So spirit doesn't speak through the mind. The mind contains the information that spirit will use to translate something to you from the spirit realm and break it down to the physical where we can process it. But the heart is the throne of God. It's the throne of God. It's the throne where your higher self sits. So for so many of us, early in life, we had our heart broken, like as children. And it could have been a small trauma, maybe not spending time, having a emotional connection with one of your parents, maybe a sibling being treated better than you. Like the first 7 years, we are in theta state. So we are recording data from our environment at the speed of light. And the mind is a quantum computer. So it's we develop that conditioning, may or may not be traumas that you remember, but it still affects you and the subconscious patterns. The interesting thing for me was the more I did this work, the more I started to have these dreams, and I noticed the correlation. And I was just like, oh my goodness, I do have control over my dreams. I may not be able to specifically dial it in on a specific subject, but what you can do before you go to sleep to start practicing developing intuition during your sleep state, since you are less inhibited in sleep state. We are traveling many different realms in sleep state, in the astral. And so what happens is right before you go to sleep and shut down, and this is so important. There's a period when we're getting ready to fall asleep where we're back in that theta state. And in that state, we are much more, our absorption is much higher to retain information and for the information to actually seep into the subconscious mind and reprogram some of the programs that we have been releasing. Okay. So, right before you fall asleep, what you can do is set the intention of what you want to work through. So maybe you've been feeling the it's funny because I definitely been dealing with this a lot, but you feel this drive to do something new or different, but you also have this feeling of it might not be the best situation, or this might not be the best time, or you might even catastrophize about it and like, well, if I do this, this might happen. And you ain't made not one step to do anything, but you already have a program in your mind telling you that to not trust yourself to do whatever this thing is you want to do, or that you're not going to be good enough at it, or you always start stuff and don't finish it. Like this is the mind. The mind is like a gnat sometimes, and you're just trying to enjoy your strawberries. And so it's just think about it though. If you're at war with your mind, well, you're not able to really feel. So right before you go into sleep, you're in theta state. So this is the moment right here. And I do this every single night. And I'm so grateful for the challenges, the surgeries, the near-death experience. I feel physical bone pain and organ pain almost every day of my life. And what allows me to focus on spirit and what matters, and it is a responsibility to actually pay attention. And I mean, you commit, and I committed to this journey. So I never have an excuse to not do this practice that I'm sharing with you to help you connect stronger with your intuition, help you to connect with more spirit guides, especially while you are dreaming, and to be able to program yourself to be the person you want to be moving ahead. So before you fall asleep, invoke your name 7 times. Whatever resonates for you. If your government name don't resonate for you, don't use it. If you got a nickname, just shoot whatever name has resonance inside of you and it feels good. You say that name 7 times. 7 is the number of creation. 7 is the number that represents the completion of a spiritual journey, a process. So you're already programming your mind to think positive about a day that hasn't come yet just by invoking your own name with your essence. You're calling back your own power. Now, if you know your galactic signature, this will amplify this effect a lot more. If you know your galactic signature and you say what your galactic signature is after you invoke your name, this also amplifies your connection to spirit. And you may even start to feel your body tingle. If you do have some somatic sensations, that's beautiful. That's just the light body let activation happening, like you're getting more present in the body, and that's connection. You feel sometimes you can feel electricity going through you. This is you learning how to invoke your own power to call your energy back. Because when we think about things obsessively, we're sending energy in that direction. So this will also cause us to feel tired and exhausted, even if we ain't did nothing, because we are meta humans. We are metaphysical beings. And even though a lot of us been studying it and due to the awakening, but it's so much more to learn about the technology of this beautiful body and the 6 subtle bodies that we have. So you do this and you take some slow, deep breaths because you want the breath to support um, the invoking of your I divine self. And this is going to help to calm the nervous system. So I call my name, White Galactic Wizard. You are at peace. And this sound crazy when I first started because I was just like, I'm a wizard. Like this shit, it was blowing my mind. And I would just be laughing, laying in the bed at myself with myself. It was just so funny how when channels open up to spirit, you have emotions you're not expecting to have. So I would just bust out laughing and be like, oh my goodness, like if when I was singing gospel songs, I would have known that this would have been my spiritual practice to calm my mind before sleep. Just so crazy. So yeah, you can actually, give me a second, put my baby at, there you go. Okay. You can actually learn your galactic signature. If you don't know your galactic signature, I'm going to let you know how you can learn that. And I'm going to drop the link here so that you can get into the course and learn about that. If you don't know it, just stick with your name. That's fine. Do the slow, deep breaths. Do at least 4 slow, deep breaths. Okay. Don't fill your lungs up because a lot of us are easily triggered to go into fight and flight now. Again, we're highly empathic, intuitive people. Some of us are a lot more psychic than we knew we were, and we're really, really, really starting to feel energy more intensely. So this is beyond whether or not you are aware if you are something, okay? But we all have a spiritual mission and spiritual gifts. The fight or flight blocks the energy of spirit to communicate with you. So this is the purpose in you filling your belly with the breath and your lower lungs, the lower lobes of your lungs. Just visualize feeling that like water of a tide coming in, the tide going back out. And so I do that a few times. And as I begin to slow down my breath, my thoughts start to slow down. And I'm still having them come through. If you have some thoughts that come through, just put a pin, just say, okay, I'll get back to that. But complete your 7 calling of your name, complete that 7 times. And before you go into meditation, if something come through like you forgot to, pay a bill or you forgot to make the kids' dentist appointment or whatever, like just jot it down. Just reach over on a nightstand. It's what I do. I write it down because some of the thoughts that come up are important. And I thank my brain. Thank you for reminding me of that. Because if you're at war with your brain for it doing just what it's been programmed to do, this creates more resistance inside of you, which will also block communication with your spirit guides, your divine self, your ancestors, any spiritual communication. This will slow it down or block it. It'll come to a halt. Okay. So the goal is to be non-judgmental of the thoughts, but write down the ones that are actually important and give gratitude and say thank you that your mind can process information that way. That's beautiful. It can get frustrating, but let's focus on how beautiful our ability is to do these things. Because the 3D matrix is a projection that's based on the energetic frequency we're in. And as a collective, we create what's happening in the world. And some of us are just more unconscious than others, but we're always co-creating something. Okay. Now, the next thing that was like make a break, took me to the next level was connecting to my inner child first. I had absolutely no idea that my inner child had to hook up to the spirit realm like that. Like it was so crazy. So in the beginning, my inner child, I would do meditations. My inner child would not come to me. I felt so bad. Like for a while, I was hard on myself. I would do the meditation, and she would just sit there and just look at me, and she would just ignore me. That went on for a while, and I started asking my divine self, like, why is my inner child ignoring me? And my divine self was just saying, like, well, um, if you're not going to consistently show up, regardless of how she responds, well, you're doing the exact same thing that other people did in your life as a kid. They didn't fully see you and hear you. So if you show up and it's like I'm expecting my inner child, you need to do what I want you to do now. I'm doing this meditation now. I said I was going to do this every day and I only did it one time in the last 4 months, but your ass better show up when I try to connect with you. We might not actually say this, but this be the vibe sometimes. And it's like my inner child better show up. And so that's the energy that I was in. And my inner child was just like, mm-mm. So I worked on releasing judgment towards myself. I worked on isolating the thoughts when I'm being mean to myself. I worked on putting love in those places with those thoughts. And the more I did that, the more I could feel my inner child in me from day to day. So I could be washing dishes and just get caught up in the bubbles, and I'm just in there playing in bubbles. Like it was just strange. I was just like, what the hell? What is going on with me? I'm in there playing with bubbles, like really having a freaking ball. And I started to laugh, and I was like, oh, I'm letting you come through now. And she was like, exactly. So yes, your inner child is literally the channel to connect to spirit throughout your cycles of life on the planet. Again, that goes back to the creativity. Think about how creative we were as kids. We were so creative, like, I believed that I could fly as a kid. I really did. I really did. And I would have dreams that I was flying. And to me, it was real. That's the magical part of connecting with your inner child. So if you have inner child wounds and you're noticing traumas coming up in the form of maybe not feeling comfortable being vulnerable, not taking a risk, and doing some of the things that you say you want to do, like not committing to seeing things through, not speaking up. Sometimes because of trauma, you will avoid speaking up because you have this data bank that says that wasn't safe all the other times that you did this. It's not going to be safe now. And that may or may not be the case. But when you don't allow yourself to have a new experience, what happens is in our effort, and this is the spiritual ego, in our effort to be more spiritual, we want to control like every single thing. Um, but again, that just creates more of the energy of not being liberated. That's stressful. And most of human suffering is created in our imagination. Because, yes, you really could be going through something. You could really be dealing with somebody victimizing you. I'm going to give you a great example of this is what I call a PRP. It's a positive reframe practice. So let's just say you get let off from a job. And in that moment, you thinking to yourself, how I'm going to pay my car note, how I'm going to do this. You freaking out about it. Well, spirit may have been sending you messages letting you know, like that passion that you have and the purpose that you was placed on this planet to embody and to fulfill is now being open to you. But as long as you had that job, you weren't even going to notice the opportunity when it presented itself. This is how spirit, teach us. So that's a positive reframe practice. You go from feeling like it's a spiritual attack on you because you lost a job to, oh my goodness, this is helping me to focus now on what I really love, like what I really want to do. I have the time to do that now. You're not even to the point of the bills and stuff. Like, just sometimes you just have to let it happen. You just have to do the best that you can. May not be bills, it could be relationship with people, but this is the process of the positive reframe, because you're choosing to see something different, and anytime you do that, that's using creativity. That's the magic of the inner child. Our inner child is so powerful, and this is also being reflected in the news and a lot of stuff that's happening centered around, abuse of children, sexual abuse of children, and trafficking. Like, that's a topic every day now, and that's a reflection. As within, so without. We're dealing with the traumas inside of us that we reenact, and we choose to be in relationships with people who fit into those roles until we heal. So as within, so without. We're just saying it reflected back. And I've been saying this for a little while, but this energy that we're in, it's a shadow mirror, and it's to help us grow. So yeah. Anything you want to add, Indigo, before I go?
No, you're all good.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So the course, both of the courses, we have the inner child healing course, and you can work through and connecting with your inner child. I highly recommend this. Anything spiritual that you are doing, if the inner child is not being embraced and loved unconditionally, like, it's so much power inside of you, but it's trapped in that inner child that's starving for love and compassion. And if you're not giving that love and compassion to your inner child, you don't have the fuel to make certain decisions and take chances, to be more of your authentic self, and to even be paid for doing what you love. That's inner child work that allows that. For anybody who is in a relationship already or open to being in a relationship, at the first date, I would ask about inner child work, like real talk. That's one of the most important things you could know about somebody. You hear me? Forget what kind of car you drive, where you work, how much you make. No, have you done any inner child healing? Open up with that. And a lot of us will avoid so much unnecessary, drama if we would connect with that part of us. So in the inner child healing course, I'm going to put the link also up for that so that you can join us. And basically, I'll be with you every day, directing you through your day with guidance and messages from the spirit realm to help you on your journey, tools, journal prompts. Like, it's just so much stuff to just help you to create the reality that you desire, to be able to just one thing at a time, one day at a time, get one step closer to being a fuller embodiment of the authentic self that you desire to be. So that's one of the tricks that nobody told me. And I read a lot of books, didn't find it nowhere. Um, I'm happy to share that one. The next one was the galactic signature. These are epic. I'm telling you, you do these things, you will not ever be wondering what spirit is saying. Okay. Your galactic signature holds the frequency of your spiritual anatomy. This is your whole Merkaba, your whole vessel of this experience to for God to meet God. for goddess to meet goddess. This is what we're all doing. We're all fragments of source energy, prime creator, having individual experiences, but the law of one. We're all connected. We all affect each other. When you know your galactic signature, I go back and reread it from time to time. It allows you to perceive your life from a different perspective. And there is a 13-day soul retrieval that you can do where you have the prompts and you also know which galactic guides are assigned to assist you. And said this right here was groundbreaking, and I cannot say it enough. I go back to this often as possible. I learn something about myself every single time I do this. And our soul is the full embodiment of everything that we are, but it seems that we were fragmented throughout these lifetimes. And so actually being whole is about regathering those fragmented parts of you, right? Prior to coming to the planet and forgetting who we were. A lot of us are old souls and we've reincarnated many times. So connecting with this frequency, having that information, knowing what questions to pose to your soul, it unlocks unlimited potential to know yourself. And in the past, in the age of Pisces, the goal was to find God outside of you. Find something outside of you that would just come and fix you, right? And a lot of us were raised by people that that's the only spiritual way that they knew to connect with spirit. And so this unplugs you from some of the 3D matrix social constructs around us seeking love, God outside of us. And so this is another reason going within yourself and connecting with these aspects of you is going to allow you to communicate with spirit better because um, you're able to digest the information. And I'm gonna tell you what get in the way of digesting information because we can read books and listen to audiobooks all day long. But if you don't allow it to settle and begin to make decisions from that space, from what you've learned, it's just sitting there, right? And it's not going to help you. So that is also in the course as well, so that you can work through that and connect with that part of you that's been waiting for you to acknowledge. And you will feel a difference. I want to say the very first day, I was like, oh, wow. I just connected with something else. I felt it. I just felt it. The colors were brighter. The next day, I felt it. And what happens is, and let me explain this too really quick before I go on. But with the galactic signature, that calendar is a 13 moon calendar. So it's a lunar calendar that the Mayans were creating the prophecies of what we are experiencing, just as they said we were. That 13 moon calendar holds the energy of the lunar goddess, feminine energy. That's the energy of the subconscious mind. So when you're working with the galactic signature, you're working with that mothering feminine energy that is the most necessary part of any transformation. Once you begin pulling your, not pulling, but once you begin releasing the pressure, this is how you release that pressure because like as you banish things and you notice certain beliefs and stuff you don't want to have anymore, okay, that you're relieved for a moment, but not too long after something happens and it throw you off. And we all have something that we consume to help us to feel better in 3D. Well, a lot of us, most of us. And some of them are healthy and some of them are not. That's because of the Gregorian calendar, time and space being changed to 1260 frequency, right? It manipulated the harmonic frequency of the planet. So that's another reason we feel like it's a lot easier for us to feel like we're in fight or flight because we're in a very chaotic part of the photon belt right now. And so, with these major transformations, there are also these catastrophes and things happening, but all of the energy is being used to create a new earth, to shift the paradigm. So, when you're connecting with this, you're pulling away from this system, the 3D matrix system of trading time for money. and you begin to tap into the deeper healing within yourself, and money becomes something that you attract by doing what you love versus doing something that you hate just for the sake of getting money. That's the energy of the Gregorian calendar. It's nowhere around that one. So when you begin to work with your galactic signature, that frequency and that pressure, you will feel it minimize, and you will feel yourself being okay with things that you maybe were not okay with in the past. You may even have more time on your hands, and you find yourself feeling more relaxed. I was a slave to working a 9 to 5 for a long time, up until 2006, when I said, that's it. I can't do this no more. Something inside of me knew that that wasn't my highest calling. It wasn't anywhere near it. So when I committed myself to not doing that again and to figure out who I am and share those parts of me with the world to help other people going through this journey, I mean, it just, my whole world started to change. So the soul retrieval is the connection for you to be able to connect with that. The next thing, I want to get into some blockages now. What blocks us being able to receive guidance from spirit is handling how we handle criticism. Um, for those of us who are working through trauma, we're consciously aware that we have trauma. Maybe we have insecure attachment. Maybe we are fearful avoidant, and we avoid intimacy because we don't trust. We don't trust people. We don't trust our own decisions. Many different personality disorders show up as a result of trauma as well. So, what happens is criticism feels detrimental to someone who got in trouble in the past for having a different perspective or speaking up, or revealing the truth in the family that the family didn't want nobody to talk about. They wanted to ignore it, right? And so after you are punished or mistreated or abandoned, rejected as a child, you learn, okay, let me avoid causing friction in any way. Let me avoid conflict. And if accepting criticism is going to help me to avoid conflict and feeling like I'm in trouble, that's what I'm going to do. Well, that strong theta programming follow us into adulthood via the subconscious mind. So criticism, it does feel detrimental to us as we're doing this work, but it's not just from the trauma, but criticism feel detrimental sometimes because look at the price that we once had to pay based on certain belief systems and traditions of being wrong. If you're wrong and you're a little kid in school, it means that you could fail. That's scary for a little kid to get left behind you know if you were wrong doing something that's considered illegal, you could go to jail, right? Some of us grew up in situations where we didn't have nothing to eat unless we stole some chips out of the store or something on the way home from school. Like, this is a reality, yet it's like the shadow thing that nobody want to talk about or admit to, with so much shame around. And the more we talk about it, the more we deactivate the collective shame. So this is the power of connecting with these parts of you and doing this shadow work. So what happens is the criticism, if you grew up in a religious family, then you have another layer where criticism could have potentially meant me going to hell. Being wrong could potentially mean me going to hell. Again, that's traumatic as hell to have to process feeling like a mistake that you make could lead to that. So this is some of the root causes of us not being able to receive criticism. Um, the next thing, because when spirit is guiding you, spirit is not candy coated things for you. Spirit just gonna tell you what it is that you seek, just like in the movies. But it might sound like a riddle because it's for you to tap into yourself and figure out. But spirit is direct. but it does require your focus and to be willing to surrender what you think you should be doing to what spirit is leading you to do. That's a whole other thing. So if you have a tendency to shy away from criticism, then it is going to limit how much spirit guides can communicate with you. Just as judgment, or fear of looking weird or being weird, those things impede upon our spiritual connection. So just practicing being comfortable with criticism. I have kids, and kids are natural expert criticizers. So I tried to make it stop, and it did work. So now I just use the positive reframe practice with the kids. And when they tell me that I cooked something and it tasted horrible, and what did I do wrong? I can practice. This is spirit. Just spirit is just allowing me to have the opportunity to have more patience, to be criticized, to be able to make something else. This is a moment for me to relax my ego, and be okay. Like, you don't have to like it. That's okay. That's all right. You want something else? A lot of us didn't grow up with that level of conscious parenting. So these are things that you learn and connect with the more you receive criticism. So spirit does speak through children. Also, your enemies, perceived enemies, people that get on your nerves. That's spirit speaking to you. That's your shadow self showing you what's within the subconscious mind. So a great example of that would be if for people who have a tendency to get in relationships with people who are emotionally unavailable. Maybe in the beginning they are, but it starts to wear off. Well, that's just a shadow showing you there's a part of you as well that's not comfortable with the full intimacy, with full vulnerability. And maybe you hold and hide parts of you to not be rejected by that person or judged as bad. So it goes right back to all of the programs in the 3D matrix had this root thing. It was this system of psychological control. So in the 3D Matrix course, I went through that month by month, year by year, cataloging the astrology, the Mayan astrology, the Vedic astrology, comparing the numerology, and creating a system where you could work through day by day and isolate these areas where you have these subconscious programs that are creating things in your reality that you feel like you've outgrown and you're ready to move past it. And you absolutely can. Okay, so the next one, which is huge, emotional regulation. Being able to have emotional regulation practices that you use every day will increase connection with spirit to speak to you. This is similar to the criticism that we were just talking about, or being judgmental. If you are easily emotionally dysregulated, and it happens, I mean, it happens to me. I lose count how many times a day. It's just a part of the human experience. So the goal is not to feel the dysregulation. The goal is to seek to embrace the dysregulation, to seek to understand the dysregulation and what is connected to use that moment to seek something that will soothe you, something that's healthy, something that you know will support you on your spiritual journey. But maybe sometimes we just don't do it. We know what we should do and don't. So when you're emotionally dysregulated, that's an opportunity for you to practice with yourself, being able to drive your Merkaba, to drive your temple, to drive your energetic field, to take your quantum field, the field based on the consciousness that you've been in throughout every incarnation, really, because we are clearing a lot of past life drama right now. But being able to do that allows you to ground yourself inside of your body. When we're emotionally dysregulated, we're going to do one of four things. We're going to go into fight, we're going to go into flight, freeze, or fawn. Fight most often is the person who gets very aggressive and feel like they need to defend themselves because they feel like they're being accused of something or put down or criticized. That's an impact of someone who experienced trauma. This has nothing to do with whether or not we're bad or good people. It's just that we all had a different impact from the trauma, a different way of dealing with it. So if you go into fight, then the game changer is to just takes a couple of breaths before you respond. Just by doing that, you're gonna feel a lot better because you're like, wow, I loved myself so much in this moment that I took a pause and took a breath. Like, just that's showing up for yourself. And these are simple things that you can do that have such an enormous impact. So just in that moment, stop and take a breath. With practice, you will get to the point that you taking a breath is just second nature. When I watch gurus talk before they answer a question, I notice they take a breath. And it's those simple things that allow you to have more emotional regulation. So make you a list. Start making a list of what regulates you. It could be breathing. Breathing is something that you can do anytime, any place. It could be meditating. It could be taking a walk. Listen to some music. Like just start cataloging what helps you to regulate. And when you need to go back to it and just do one of them. Um, and funny thing, I was desiring to connect with Lilith in the beginning, just reading about her, and she just seemed like she was just so powerful in her feminine energy. And that I had such a curiosity and allure to that power, that sense of power and liberation and not being attached to other people's perceptions, right? She didn't even care if you don't know much about Lilith. There's mythology that she was Adam's first wife and she didn't want to have sex the way he wanted to have sex. And so she was just like, fuck this. I'm not doing this. So I was so drawn to that, especially having a history of sexual abuse and abuse and when I was younger. And so it just was something so powerful about that energy. But I was so judgmental. She couldn't approach me. And I was fearful. Anything that I had heard a bad story about, I judged the spiritual energy by what I heard without even meeting for myself. And so this goes back to the emotional regulation. The more I regulated myself to not be as fearful, and to say that I feel excited about learning these things and connecting with these archetypal energies, then I was able to communicate with her. But in the beginning, that just like with the inner child work, it wasn't connecting. So when you're working with spiritual energy usually is not going to come down and meet you where you are, kind of thing. It's like you got to work yourself into the vortex to be able to communicate within that radio station. So yeah, I just wanted to slide that little story in there about connecting with Lilith. Now this leads me to the shadow self. A huge block for being able to have spiritual guidance is the shadow self, the repressed parts of you that you probably don't like, the things that you've done that you said you would take to your grave, the things that make you feel like you're not worthy of love, the things that make you doubt yourself and lack self-esteem and just the confidence believing in yourself. These are all aspects of the shadow self, the things that you denied. It might be true, you know. If you're not doing any shadow work to integrate with these parts of you, well, you're gonna have a difficult time communicating with spirit as well because you're not whole and you don't feel like you have enough love inside of you to face these parts of you. And ultimately shame is what prevents us from connecting with our shadow self. So let's just an example. If your shadow self is just real mean, maybe your shadow self is mean and cold because your shadow self felt like this is how I had to be. I got to be nonchalant. I can't be given, I can't be caught up in what other people think. Like we have that part of us. That's why when we watch movies or TV shows, when we see a character like being like that, it's a part of you to be like, yep, yep, they done did you wrong. Forget them. That's that shadow part of you, right? But the 3D matrix, the social constructs from education to religion to entertainment, all of that, it construed our mind about what it means to be whole. And so sometimes we go through life trying so hard to be right that we never get to meet the part of us that actually holds the power, and that's the shadow self. You can't love yourself unless you can love the parts of you that maybe you once perceived to be ugly. And you can actually start to love the part of you that you used to hate. This increases your ability to commune with spirit so easily. Um, so, in the course as well, we have the shadow work in there that you can do. And this is a form of mirror work. So you'll be eye gazing and working with your own energy. I know I keep talking about working with your own energy, and I know sometimes we go through so much and it's like, what energy? Like all the stuff I've been going through, don't feel like I got no energy to change anything. But you absolutely can. It just requires you to everybody's spiritual awakening isn't going to go through the same cycles in the same order, right? But these things are the commonality. This is what is characterized as the collective. These are the baseline things that move through everybody that's awakening. So connecting with your shadow self, when you are looking into your eyes into the mirror, you're able, again, this is about bringing the unconscious conscious. You may see the way that your skin looks shift. At one time when I was doing the mirror work, you know, I started to cry because I was like, I was judging you because you look green. It was crazy, but my shadow self looked kind of like green or something. I was just like, oh my gosh, it's just no. um, but I was singing the judgment inside of me, and I was singing the fear of anything different than what I've been programmed to believe is right. So that was a major transformational moment to be able to accept me showing up with green skin. I had green skin and these huge soul piercing eyes. And maybe 2 or 3 times that I did the mirror shadow integration that's in the course. And I started to really love and appreciate her. And I asked her why she had to look so ugly and scary. She just looked scary. And like Sekhmet or Kali, some of the goddesses, they look vicious, right? They look like, look, I'm not playing them games. They be riding on tigers and shit. I mean, they some real warriors, some spiritual warriors. And so she was just like, you're seeing the way that you see yourself, the part of yourself that you've been told is ugly or bad. I was like, wow. And so again, just making that connection, I learned something about myself. And this is when I discovered like I am super critical, and I can be really negative towards myself and hurtful. So being able to love that part of me, it allows it to dissipate. And I'm not trying to force myself to be different. I am putting the program that's necessary to think different, and it changes my perception. And once you change your perception, your reality will begin to shift to be a vibrational match to the inner change of perception. So the shadow self, that's access to your superpowers. Um, did you have any questions before we wrap up? Kind of just went off again.
That was wonderful. I do. I have
Yeah.
like about 2 pages worth. You got
Yeah,
time?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, when you get on the channel when spirit's speaking, it opens up. That's why I love listening to certain people. It opens
Mm,
up.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Some of them you actually did answer, but maybe
Mhm.
It could be useful to hear it again if you want to just do
Mhm.
it quick.
Okay, cool.
Okay. So let me see where my first one's at. This one. How do I hold it down when I feel like I want to jump out of the feeling?
Yes. Oh, so deep. So when I get these, I had one of these today. And I did. I leave my body a lot. That's I disassociate. That's one of my patterns. And this is with shadow work. You start to know when you're in your body and when you're not. It's just like what you talk to some people like, yeah, girl, I'm here, but I'm not really here with you. That's that's the higher self awareness conversation that we having now. But when I'm feeling that intense emotion and that urge to not be with myself, I remind myself that if I be with myself in that moment, my inner child is watching me be to her what she needed when she had intense moments and when she was going through things and needed somebody to be there. That's my opportunity to reparent myself, to be with those intense emotions, to be with myself. And so oftentimes I'll lay my hand on my heart, um, the left hand, feminine receiving energy. So I'll typically put this one down first. The right hand, masculine energy. These are the currents within your body as well, connecting with the heart. So I would take my masculine hand and use it to protect and cover the feminine part of me. And I do this probably once an hour, honestly, because I really want to clear some things that I know are holding me back. And so I just drop back down into here and I just remind myself that I'm safe. Like, I'm safe. I'm safe. You're safe. And I visualize the inner child. I visualize the younger me. And maybe she's crying in that moment. Or maybe she's just feeling lonely and unloved in that moment. And I let her know, like, I'm going to give all of that to you. So if it's anxiety that I'm feeling, you know, then I calm it by soothing myself, narrating myself as I would have wanted a parent to do for me to teach me emotional regulation. And I teach myself, but I'm the little girl in me. And I'm like, you're okay. I'm speaking to her, and just visualizing yourself younger and using that simple technique. Just, it can do a lot. Yeah.
That was perfect. I'm feeling a little anxious, so I was speaking some words to myself too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're
Oh my
welcome.
goodness. Okay. So how do you balance feeling with the 3D reality things?
Like, such as responsibilities.
Yeah, that's a big one for me.
I'm horrible at it.
You too?
I'm horrible at it. I'm getting better with each passing day. I'm gonna speak and say that I've been horrible at it, but I'm improving. The techniques that we talking about actually are helping me to improve. Because what I'm noticing, if I'm getting behind on laundry, or if I'm getting behind on a bill, or if I'm getting behind, maybe I said I was going to fix my credit and I'm so overwhelmed, I don't even feel like requesting the report and reading it over and checking it. I got so much stuff going on in my life. I'm like, I don't even want to see a medical bill. I'm in the state of just keep it away from me. I don't want to deal with it. Sometimes it's conscious like that. I just don't want to deal with it. Sometimes it's very unconscious. I just procrastinate around doing 3D matrix things. And so I ask my I divine self, I want you to make me feel better, but I want you to tell me the truth too. And that's so complicated to do. That's not easy to do, but your I divine self does it with ease. Your inner child does it with ease as well. So I asked, like, I really struggle with procrastination, but like it's really not with the spiritual things and things like that. Like I love that stuff. I'm so intrigued by that. But the 3D matrix stuff, that's so hard. It's so hard sometimes for me to sit and do my taxes. Like those things. Like I want to apply for a business. Some of y'all, you might want to start a business or something, and it's just like I can't even do the first step. Like I just feel overwhelmed and I haven't done anything yet. I'm just thinking about the process and I'm tired. That's a sign that you are not letting spirit lead you. You're in your head, first of all. And second, you're allowing your body, because the cortisol, all of the hormones inside of you are being released in these moments that we do this to ourselves. And so what has helped me is reminding myself that this may be a form of procrastination, and I may not fully be able to trust and depend on myself to get things done in a timely manner. But I know for sure that spirit will help me, because spirit is all about divine timing. And I'm gonna do the best that I can and let spirit help me with the rest. Maybe it's just not time for me to deal with this particular 3D thing, right? So can I just be okay with not being okay all the time and being the perfect? There's no perfect adult. People might have all of their box checked off in a 3D matrix things to do, but their children may not feel connected to them. So everybody got a weak area that they're not keeping up with. But that's just a sign that the 3D matrix is starting to continue to crash. And just we don't enjoy being in the 3D program, doing the 3D stuff. So that's a sign of that as well. Your spirit just letting you know, like, come on, you need to be in this spiritual energy more often. If that's making you feel away, then you need to deposit more spiritual time, energy, and effort into your day so that you're more balanced.
Uh, I think that last part really resonated with me because I even find myself when I wake up, I'll get right to the task because my mind's already going. And then by the time I've gotten done with like, no, by the time I'm like middle first task, I'm already tired. But it's because I haven't given myself the spiritual time to like gain
Mhm.
that energy to move myself through it and enjoy myself through it. Because
Yeah,
enjoying it is like, why are we doing the task if we can't even enjoy doing
exactly. Exactly. So the
it? Yeah.
goal is to enjoy it more, to try to at
Mm,
least get there, be open to it. Yes.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a great question. See, I love your questions.
Thank you.
So I'm not looking on YouTube. I don't know if we got anybody in
Yeah, go
there
ahead.
that um don't look like we do. It might be just us. I don't know. Let me see. Right. This tech stuff is not my thing. So okay, so before we finish up, I'm gonna go over my last few tips for you being able to. I hope that I hope that so far you learned something new, because if you ain't learning nothing new, or you're being your present beliefs aren't being challenged, for me it's all about illumination. It's all about opening the mind to new possibilities. So the next thing is knowing your soul planet. Knowing your soul planet. That's so important, to know your soul planet. Okay, your soul planet teaches you the the trials and tribulations, the challenges, the hard times that you're going to have in this incarnation based on the previous incarnations and what you did not complete. Okay. And so that soul planet in the course, you will be able to access this information for yourself, and you will be able to find out what your soul planet is, learn what that means. And I'm telling you, this one thing made stuff make so much sense that didn't make sense to me. And I felt peace just knowing like there was a purpose in the pain. There was a purpose in the suffering. It wasn't for nothing. This increases your value. It increases the way you feel. Yeah, you feel more valuable because you know more about yourself. That's how you become high value. It's by knowing yourself. It's nothing outside of you that you attain that makes you a high value person, woman or man. But it's that inner access to that inner power and understanding yourself, that's true power. So that is going to be in the chorus. I'm actually going to go in and add that tonight if it's not already in there to make sure, because my guides kept telling me that's important, and a lot of people on the journey don't know these things. Now, the next thing that I want to share with you is using your pendulum more regular. This is my favorite pendulum. I use it every day. If you haven't been using your pendulum, this is the time now for you to start. Spirit communicates through the pendulum really easily. And this is a citrine pendulum. We have tiger's eye. I know sometimes it'll collect dust and you'll find yourself not working with your tools. If you don't have a pendulum, you can order one from our shop. I recommend this because when the mind is in the way and the ego is in the way and you can't really tell the difference between the two, the pendulum is reading the frequency within your environment. So it can't lie to you. Maybe you will get a maybe from it on occasion, but it's going to tell you yes or no, right? If you don't know how to use the pendulum, that's available on our Patreon. For $1 and up, you can the tier, any tier, this class is on there. And I take my time and walk you through how to connect with your pendulum and how to get accurate answers. I use my pendulum. It's so many uses. You can use it for what you eat that day. You could use your pendulum to know if a decision that you're about to make is this on the journey of me becoming a better version of me, or would this decision be something that holds me back? The pendulum is not going to lie to you. It can't. It's energy. It's pure energy. Um, so yes, so using this helps a lot if you are connecting with deities or certain ancestors as well. You can ask your pendulum, like, is my ancestor here with me now while you're doing a prayer or giving an offering? And if it tell you no, like, okay, well, let me make sure that I'm taking care of my altar more often and just building up that connection. And this is everything is a relationship. Everything in this world is meant to be a relationship in which we learn something, or we're learning how to give and receive energy. So these are the things that cause blockages. So be okay with that too, because sometimes I went and burned ancestor money and did petitions, and offered my prayers and asked, like, was this enough? And sometimes my pendulum would say no. So I'm going to burn some more ancestor money. It's humbling as well. It helps you to require less on your logic, right? Your logic, left hemisphere brain, and rely more on the feminine right hemisphere, which is where intuition is housed. There's no other way to access intuition without working with the feminine energy. So the pendulum is like a quick hack to do that. Um, and I don't have conversations. If it is not the best time to have certain intense conversations, I don't. I wait to spirit let me know when I'm being supported to work through a conflict or something with somebody. These things create more peace in your life. It gives you more control of what you can control, and it helps you to focus less on what you cannot. So let me drop some links in there before we get off. Indigo, was there anything that you wanted to share or say?
Um, I had this, I don't know if you want to call it epiphany, but about tapping more into the feminine energy
Mhm.
and how everybody was talking about, like, oh, we're moving into like the feminine energy, the feminine energy. And I remember not really knowing what that meant.
Mhm.
And then now that I hear you explaining it, I'm kind of realizing that it's really just letting your heart guide everything, like your feeling. And it sounds so cliche, but like
Yeah.
I feel like especially in the society that we live in, we are just so stuck thinking about the most logical thing to do.
Mhm.
And it's definitely switched my perspective on just allowing things to happen through spirit, I guess, right? And it's made life more interesting. And I find myself creating situations that like I've never seen or witnessed in a
Mhm.
movie or
Mm.
heard of. And it's
Yeah.
so like I'm
Yeah.
creating my own.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yesterday, I wish we had the time like off camera, but I had the
Yeah.
most
Look, go
wildest
ahead and
time.
share it. We got time.
You
We got
got
a few
to.
more minutes. 2 more minutes. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna try to keep it like as concise as I can, but so my car was having some funny problems because I've been having some um conflict with my family, so I've been in
Mhm.
my car a lot. And so I was out yesterday and I was running some errands, and I go leave and I come back and my car didn't want to turn on. And so
Mm.
uh luckily my car broke down right in front of a fire station and a police station. And
Wow.
and oh, my mind was racing because I was having more confrontation with my family because um, I've been struggling a little bit and I've been
Yeah.
needing a little extra help. So I had to figure this one out on my own. So I remember being really in my head, and that's when spirit told, like, that's when I knew that I'm not going to be able to figure this out if I keep racing through everything going on. So that's when I dropped in,
Mhm.
and um, turns out by the end of it, there was a man
Mhm.
who gave me $100 to figure out my situation. I was helped by three men who, oh, and before that, I remember you telling me about your situation,
Mhm.
um, and how you made a sigil to, uh, I think it was something like that, but I made a sigil because I had some confrontation with the police, and um, it helped. It just, I handled the situation so spiritually that like the thoughts that were racing through my head, I'm getting a little bit like I'm getting in my head right now, so
Yeah.
um give me
That's
like
okay.
a
Yeah.
moment
It's
to.
cool.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
It's cool. I feel in the
I just
vibes. Yeah.
it was like magical. It was something like I
Mm.
felt like I was almost witnessing something of a dream unfold. And
Mhm.
the hardest moments that I've ever had felt like it just felt like everything was happening finally. Like all of
Mhm.
the work that I've been doing is finally
Mhm.
paying off. And I'm realizing it in the most hectic ways, but like the universe supporting me through the man giving me $100. He said, I
Yeah.
had this in my pocket to give to somebody this whole day. This is yours. And he
Wow.
said, God is watching out for you. But of course, mine's goddess.
Right. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had my I got this book that I wanted to show you. Um it's beautiful. And it has, I think, your tattoo. Like I know I sound stalkerish right
Yeah.
now, but I know
Yeah. I love it. Mhm.
but
Yes.
goddess
Yes.
magic. And
Wow.
I flipped to one page. It had me read one of the pages, and then that was before everything. Before I had to go walk to the gas station, get the gas canister. I only had $40 on me. The amount that I needed was perfect. I had
Mhm.
gas money to give to somebody, and he was so
Yeah.
thankful. And it would have been horrible if I didn't have this connection with something
Yes.
greater than me. It would have felt like
Yes.
my life was falling apart, but it was enjoyable, honestly.
Yes,
I was
absolutely.
so sore after, but it
Yeah, I know, right?
was amazing.
Yeah.
Oh,
You got
yeah.
an opportunity to show up for yourself, and
Mhm.
you went through the process, trusting the process. Like, okay, because I'm in surrender mode. Like, what can I do? I can only control what I can control. It's happening. It's like metacognition. It's like when you're observing yourself have an experience.
Mhm.
And yeah, I have those experiences. And for those of us who have the more chaotic experiences like that, it's just the reflection of how powerful you are, and you're capable of navigating situations that you probably think that you can't handle, but you just threw into the middle of it and you're like, wow, I navigated that. Like, wow, I'm okay. Like, I went through that. And so this is where we get the opportunity to see the grade on our tests from the many days that we spent praying and in meditation and mantras and just affirmations, doing everything that we can to be different. It's a waiting period. It's a processing period. It's like it buffers. The spirit realm does have a buffer time. And it's the buffer time is based on how open you are for these unlimited potentials to unfold to you. It's not going to go against our free will. And so if our mind is freaking out and then we allow our body to align with that and we're freaking out, this is when you have the panic attack because you're following the mind's reaction. And so, yeah, this is the whole purpose in us awakening so that we can go have these experiences consciously. That is the gift, to have it consciously. Yeah, so beautiful.
Oh, it was cold, so they definitely made sure I was
Yeah,
conscious.
I already know those moments right there. That's those moments is like the graduation. It's just
Oh.
like, yeah, next level. She's ready for the next level. She can handle this. Graduation. It don't feel good. It's like I compare it to we're spiritual warriors and we're being trained to be able
Mhm.
to maintain a sense of self no
Mhm.
matter what's happening.
Oh my goodness. And I'm in school right now and I am psychic as fuck, sis. I
Yes,
promise you.
yes. That's why
Oh.
I'm telling you. I knew doing this today. I was like, this has to happen because we're turned activated. We're very activated. We're picking up on
Mhm.
each other's thoughts.
Mhm.
So yes, it's imperative that we have these things in place. So in the 3D Matrix course, one of the main things that I have on there is the false self funeral. And this is something that you can do over and over again. But this is when you discover a layer of the egoic self or personality trait that's holding you back, and you respectfully and with love allow this part of yourself to rest. This is you becoming the sovereign being over yourself. This is you saying, I'm ready to let this go. I'm ready to release this false mask that I've been using to be more of my authentic self. So I tried affirmations and stuff, and it just wasn't getting it. And this very beautiful poem. It's a prayer that you say, and it's just every single time. It's never a moment that I don't feel the shedding of a part of me that was actually too heavy and too dense and too harsh and too critical to take where I'm going. So that's in the course. The heart compassion activation to expand the heart chakra. A lot of us got walls up, and I get it. Like, we've been through some stuff. But the goal is to be able to let those walls down and be receptive of energy and being able to be in your heart more often. And so, yeah, that can be scary. And so I have exercises and journal prompts that you use to activate these parts of you, to be able to be more online and part of your experience. And this helps to relieve doubt. It helps to relieve the fear and shame. And you're just able to drop those things. So, yes, so I put the link in the chat here. And let me see, do I need to put the link? The link should already be in there. If it's not, I'll make sure that it's in there. But we're going to be working on this more and more in the course. And we're also going to continue to do the polls, and I'll be creating classes around what you want to know. But get the course and go ahead and start working it now. You don't have to rush yourself. I did break it down where it's 1 day exercise or meditation that you do, provide everything for you. You also get discounts on products when you grab the course. Working with nature is so important. I really didn't get to talk about potions that much and crystals, but that is a huge part of communicating with spirit. Yes, yes, yes. Like that, that's essential. It's essential part of the journey. Some people get to a point they don't need it. Some people, it's whatever resonates with you. We must walk it like we talk it the best we can. And if we claim to be spiritual people, then showing up for ourselves and working with certain tools to help us cultivate a mindset of having routines to commune with spirit, paradigm shifting. And the more we do that, the more love we have for ourselves and the more love we can project into the world for others. Right. All right, so we're gonna get off here. Thank you so much, Indigo, for joining me tonight.
Oh
And
my goodness.
yeah, it
Thank
was real
you.
good.
I really
Yeah, it was so
appreciate
good.
this. I feel
Mm,
like this is like my almost manifestation. Like just being able
mm,
to have these kinds of conversations with people I
mm,
admire. 'Cause I would never be
mm.
able to do this.
Yes, yes,
But I
yes.
am now. But I am
Yes, you
now.
are. That's what I'm talking about. Co-creator.
Yes.
Yes. And we are just continuing to share the journey as we go. We add things to the course. Like, so make sure you get on the email list so you know what we're doing. Sometimes I have pop-up ceremonies and I'm told to, call forth some wounded healers to release wounds. Just so many things. I just follow spirit. But you can also book readings as well. So that link will be below. Thank you all for joining us. May you have a beautiful evening or morning, afternoon, wherever you are. And if you're not new, you know what's coming next. Man, your third eye has just been kissed. Peace, Numi say, Ashe.
Hey, I'm Do I dip out now?
Yeah. Yeah, you can
Okay.
click off now.